Hello and good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Stiller, Director of Professional Development for CPA Plus organization. And for today's theme of today's live stream, we're going to go into a better balance for the holiday season. As you know, there's lots of joy and fun and shopping and laughter with everybody. On the flip side, as the holiday season comes through, behind closed doors, there are also a lot of stressors. And we wanted to, let's say, talk about the elephant here and let's say prod the bear a little bit because nobody out there is really doing it and helping clients out through the stressors of the holidays. So we got real lucky getting somebody's time here today to join us as our guest, Nancy Stiller, a Trauma Informed Care Practitioner, and Wendy St. Clair, co-owner of CPA Gardens. So let me have them jump on here. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Nancy. Good morning.
Hey, Nance.
Good morning. Hey, Wendy.
Hey, guys.
Hey, hello. I love the festive plants and decorations.
Welcome back there. Woohoo!
Nice.
It's Christmas.
I have books. I need something else. But thank you for joining us today, Nancy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's a nice, I would say, twist to our subjects of, bettering yourself with your as a professional, with differentiating, decommoditizing, as we all want to keep doing. This takes a little bit of a turn from core services and the necessary part of that to more of the important part of people's lives. So Wendy, I know, with you at CPA Gardens and working with about 1,000 plus small CPA firms and experiencing so much request from their clients, what would you like to start with here today? What's on your mind, Wendy, with what to hit here first?
Well, we all know, CPAs or and accounting professionals in general are under more stress in the regular time of the year. So now you've got the holidays thrown in, and their clients, if they're doing it right, their clients are coming to them, with questions about the new year, that sort of thing. But I think it's a good time to think about how you can get more value from your clients with a deeper, discussion, more, not just their tax stuff, more about their life. And it's hard to mix that professionalism with that concern, but it needs to be enthusiastic and honest if you're going to do it. So that's, what I'm thinking is you really need to talk a little bit more to your clients about stuff other than their taxes.
Yeah.
It keeps you important in their life.
Yeah. So today, Nancy, I know you have a ton of tools through your experience of working with people that can help people to get to a better light overall. And I know it's none of those cliches of like, oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or saying to them, things will get better, but giving them more realistic hope.
How are they going to get better? Show me how they're going to get better. Right. That's where people are at, especially after the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that we call in network quantifiable hope. I think you've talked about that before.
Sure.
And yeah, it doesn't really do a whole lot for people if you just say it could be worse, or whatever like the cliche thing is. Of course it can be worse.
Yeah.
Of course it can always be worse. But I think one thing we have to do is talk about what those challenges are, that people are facing, especially during this holiday season. And, that can include, like Wendy said, a heightened stress. I mean, it's not just stress, it's a heightened stress.
Super stress.
Yeah, super stress. And that causes so much anxiety. Some people have isolation and loneliness. Some people are really suffering from that. Some people are also challenged with pressure for the need for perfection. That's always a fun one for the holidays.
Right.
And then there's always, like you mentioned, Wendy, the New Year's Eve thing. I mean, that brings shame and disappointment.
Well, if you do it right. No, but I mean, yeah, exactly. There's so much.
It's so much. Yeah, it is. And especially if they didn't achieve what they thought they were going to achieve. And then that's when all that shame and disappointment hits.
Yeah.
So, and these things can show through, let's say, depression, anxiety attacks. What are some of those things, Wendy, you've seen? I mean, there's obviously you some of your clients probably have mood changes.
Well, they've got this huge list. CPAs and accounting people always have a huge list, right? But now their list is 3 times that size, and trying to be everything to everybody, especially during this time of year, is too much. You've got to accept it. You've got to deal with it, or you can go into hiding or hibernation until March, which is going to work for anybody. So I know you've got some tools on how we can deal with and how CPAs clients can benefit from them dealing with these issues and emotions.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things we have to do is look at perspective and to find out what that situation is, because everybody has different holiday situations. Matt, he has a wife and he has 2 children, 2 very, very small children. I'm home with my husband and our youngest, who's 22.
Yeah.
He can take care of himself. I don't have to get him ready for holiday events.
Yeah.
I don't, and so there's that whole thing. And some of your clients, I mean, it's all over the board of what they're dealing with. Some people are having to go to holiday family functions, and there may be some issues there.
That's true.
Yeah, so some of the things that we can talk about, there's 2 different times, of course, when you can calm yourself. Matt, if you would put up the it's a polyvagal theory chart, but really what it is, to put it into layman's terms, is it's just to look at balance versus the stressors. So we want to stay in the green, which is that is the general goal, is to try to stay in the green. It doesn't happen. You're never going to get that all day long. It just doesn't happen. And so what we have to do is get really good at being able to notice when we are going up into that yellow zone or even the red zone, where it's literally, these are stress responses. These are natural stress responses. And we can do the fight or flight, which we can do all day long, or we can even get to the shutdown stage. And neither of those are healthy to be in for long periods of time. And that's what's happening to a lot of these accounting professionals, is they're staying in this and they don't know how to get back down. And so living in those zones are so unhealthy. So again, the goal is to get down to the green. And some of those ways you can do by yourself. Like, for example, sometimes people who don't feel they are being heard need to focus on this voice. And one of the things that I like to do in the morning is I get up and do the and I make all of these sounds.
That's how everybody knows you're up in the morning. Oh, she's up.
Well, luckily I didn't do it when the kids were little, because I had to hear them sing. But and it's really very helpful to feel that vibration in your voice.
Right.
And that's one of those things that helps. And you can make all the different sounds coming out of your voice, which is very helpful. And that can help you bring you back down to green. That's just one simple technique. But the main thing is you have to notice.
Well, right. And that's just it. We're so bad at pleasing ourselves. These techniques to deal with stuff is great. Tell me a little bit more about polyvagal theory, though. I'm curious. I was reading a little bit about it this morning. But what's the theory on how, your nerve, there's a specific nerve in your head and neck, right?
Well, the theory around it is basically about how the body remembers.
Okay.
So if you are put in a similar situation that caused you stress or trauma, or undue emotional situations, and you were maybe a child or helpless or in situations where you couldn't protect yourself, naturally we will go into these states.
Okay.
They're basic standard stress responders.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to do is we have to notice when that's happening to us before, a lot of times before we can notice it if it's happening to someone else. But sometimes it goes the other way around. But I have heard many of the members of the network say, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Okay.
Once you see what's happening to you and you notice it and you start to go, oh, I'm running away. Oh, what do I need to do? And then there's these series of different exercises that you can do that work for you. And that's the other part of it that's so important, is what works for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for you. So one of the most important things is to be objective, non-judgmental. And these are all easy things to do sometimes with other people, but to do them with yourself, it can be quite difficult.
Well, I see that at the bottom in the green area is social engagement. And what you said there, I think, is one of the helpful tools. It is harder to do it for ourselves, and what flows through you sticks to you. So helping others feels good, and it helps you hopefully remember more to do that for yourself over time too, for the memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the main thing is, and then once you do notice that, you need to be accepting and gentle with yourself or or the clients that you may be working with, because this goes both ways. And one of the things that happens is by default, you end up working on yourself just by default when you're working with
right,
clients.
and that trickles down, to your clients too. If you've got your emotions under control, and as we've talked before, it's leadership that your clients are looking for. So if you've got yourself in an emotionally, enriching position and you're feeling, great, that's going to trickle down to your clients. I do see an interesting question over here though about how social engagement might cause stress for some people.
Absolutely.
So that's a great question.
Okay.
Absolutely. That can bring a lot of anxiety. Social anxiety is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a real thing. And it's not always those people that you think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've got to give everybody a little break. Well, all of the time. I think being kind and receptive are things that we all should strive to do all of the time, right? But
Absolutely.
in the holidays, especially, you have no idea what other people are, dealing with or going through.
That's true. So I do have a few quick tips that I do want to go into before we run out of time. But these are also things that can help you stay in the green, is kind of like I like to say it, and keep yourself, because keep in mind, most people are going to get together with family. And it's going to be like this. And you got to ride the coaster. We talk about poking the bear, but you got to ride the coaster. And you got to know when you got to regroup. So some of the things that you can do when nobody's going to notice, because, you can't just sit there, unless you're one of us, the Stillers, you can't sit there to dinner and all of a sudden go, people will notice. Right. So these things you can do without anybody even noticing. And of course, one of them is breathing. It's my favorite thing in the whole world, is to just breathe. Notice your breathing. Notice if it's staggered, and it's easy to just stop and reset. Just as I'm even talking to you, start to breathe. Mm-hmm. And some of the easiest ways to do it are just breathing in to like a count of 3 or 4, depends on what's good for you. And then breathe out the same number of breaths. It's called equal breathing. And so you want to equal breathe in to equal breathe out, whatever that might be for you. And even just as I'm talking about it, I feel myself going,
I'm more relaxed already. I know, it's crazy.
And that is one of the things that you'll find is what the goal is to try to get to, when kids are crying and they're really, really upset and they're like, and then they finally go, And that's the reset. That's that when the whole autonomic nervous system, which is part of the polyvagal theory, is that it automatically has reset, and you can see it and you can feel it. And sometimes for me, a lot, it comes out in a yawn. I'll yawn. I see, one of the things I like to do is I do a lot of sound. So sound healing for me is very helpful. And so here's my bowl. I have this fabulous thing.
Cool.
And isn't that fabulous?
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So I'm really into the singing bowls and the
sound for everybody. Yeah, that was relaxing as heck. So
so there's a lot of things like that. But again, I'm not going to I probably would pull my bowl out in the middle of a holiday party and start banging on it, but most people wouldn't. So again, we go back to what can you do while you're with a bunch of people.
Right.
And again, the breathing is very good. And there's different types of breathing. There's something called box breathing, which is literally you breathe and you pause and 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 you breathe and you pause, and you just do it in the shape of a box if you think it like that. And again, it's that kind of breathing. For me, that makes me dizzy. And so keep in mind, some of these breathing exercises can make people dizzy if they're not used to it. And so just be mindful of that. But it's supposed to be really great for your lungs, and it's just so good for your entire autonomic nervous system. It just really can calm you down. So the breathing is great technique. Let's see, there's a whole nother breathing method. Let me find it real quick.
And it's funny, I always used to make my son do that when he was little, not even knowing that it was some sort of a, you have to take a deep breath and hold it and then let it out through your nose. But, we forget those things that we learn along the line.
Simple breathing. And it sounds pretty, I don't know what it sounds like, but the way I think of it is, the only thing that's really, that comes between being alive and being not alive is breathing.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, really.
And so really that's all we have is our breath. And so if we can pay attention to our breath, that will help us. And while we're doing those breathing things, we can do a really great thing, which I find myself doing a lot with your own hand. And you can sometimes you can hold, we can all do it, hold your thumb. Yeah. So your thumb, it's kind of like, let me see if I can get a picture of it like this. Yeah, you want to hold it like this, and you want to squeeze it, but not too hard, but you want to squeeze it. These are your worries. This represents your worries, is your thumb. And as you squeeze it, you can think about letting those worries go, releasing all the worries that you have. And you want to do it for about a minute. Sometimes you might have that reflex that we talked about. You may yawn, you might go, you might do a deep breath, you might do a deep sigh, but you hold on for that for about 1 to 2 minutes. You might feel it pulsating, and that's kind of a sign that says, okay, I can move on to the next one. We're going to do this to all of our fingers. And it doesn't matter which hand.
Yeah.
And you do it as long as you want to do it until you're done. And then you go to the next finger. And you can do this and nobody can see you.
That's true. You can be under the table. Yeah.
No one can see me. And
so I think that's a lot of it. As adults, we weren't taught any kind, as coping mechanisms,
well, that's it.
We've got to learn.
It's a self-soothing technique because that's it. A lot of times we weren't taught as children how to calm down. Right. Nobody told me, okay, Nancy, just take 3 deep breaths and then we're going to talk about it. Nobody did that.
That's what I always do with my son, but here it turns out that's actually a physiological, a thing to make it.
It is. I see Matt do that.
It's so interesting. We could go on forever, Nancy. This is
really interesting. So let me just do the same thing.
Of course.
And this is your worries. This is your fears. This is anger. Go figure. Middle finger is anger. Then the ring finger is grief and sadness. And then the pinky finger is self-confidence, trust, kind of those kinds of issues. of letting go. And so if you do each finger for about 1 to 2 minutes, and you will feel a calming effect. And then the last one too is you can just right in the middle of your hand, you just
Oh
push
yeah, I
right,
do that all the time.
push. Well, that's the other thing you're going to find is you'll find that you do things naturally that work.
Yeah, I've
Just
always
have
done
to
that
listen
one.
to yourself. The
So
other
cool.
day, my ears were hurting so bad, and it was one of those where you eat something that's sweet or sour, and you get, I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah,
get it, you know,
yeah.
and I couldn't get it to go away. And so
Mm.
I just kept doing this to my head, and I'm like, I'm going to find something. And eventually I found this spot right back here, and I just held it for like 1 to 2 minutes, and it went away. And I was like, huh. So, and
We
there's
need a
another
whole list
spot.
of body hacks. You know, like if you oh, what happened? If you do this, did I go away? Oh, there I am. I'm back. I said we need a whole thing of body hacks, you know?
Absolutely. And there are, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. There's things like in your wrist, there's one right here that I found myself pushing before I even knew that it was something. It's an acupressure point. A lot of these are
Yeah.
acupressure points. And you'll find some little spots that just really work for you. And instead of, freaking out, and your level of freak out will change. But yeah, you can just sit there and hold this little spot and breathe.
Yeah. Super interesting. Well, we'll have to talk more about this because now I'm totally. I mean, of people that freak out, I'm a big one. I freak out a lot. So
We have lots of
nice.
classes. Yes, I'm on everything stress. That's just, I'm all about stress and how to alleviate it.
Well, this feeds into our, we were talking about earlier is with our CPAs. They've got to find ways to manage, and then as they're managing theirs, voila, then their clients are also starting to learn how to manage theirs. So I think again, I think we should talk about this more down the road. Thanks, Nancy.
Absolutely. I could talk about stress all day.
Yeah, as energy and emotions are contagious, you're right, Wendy, that clients need a good leader. They're professional to help them with more than they even think that they need them for. And CPAs and EAs and accounting professionals are really set up for a big position there. So Nancy, thank you for this. As you know, I know we're going to interweave this topic throughout the next few weeks of live streams, given, the holidays can be more stressful for others, for a lot of people out there than most people think. So this is very appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you all next week for more, and have a great rest of your day, and see you all soon. Thanks.
Bye. Bye, Nancy. Bye.
Bye.